Hey, hey, hey.
What's your favorite thing about your wife?
Her passion. She's very passionate. And she's very compassionate.
What's the least favorite thing about your wife?
She takes 15 minutes to tell a 2-minute story. I grew up in Raleigh. Both of my parents were alcoholics and addicts, and I realized at a very young age I didn't have a safe place to talk about my feelings and emotions in a safe space. And so as a child, I learned how to bottle up all my emotions, all of them: sadness, fear, excitement, joy, depression, and I just learned it was best to hold all my feelings in, and because of that, I never discussed my feelings with anybody. I didn't feel like I had a safe place to talk about what was going on inside of me, and so I just pulled myself up by my bootstraps and kept going. At the age of 17, I took my first drink of alcohol and smoked my first marijuana, and from that point forward, it was I chased that for many, many, many years, because it gave me a sense of numbness. All throughout my childhood, I had severe depression and suicidal thoughts, and at times I'd cry myself to sleep at night wishing I wouldn't wake up, not for any specific reason, just I had this overwhelming sense of sadness. And so at the age of 19, I started having really serious suicidal thoughts, and at the age of 20, I stuck a 12-gauge shotgun under my head and I pulled the trigger. And I always say it's not because I wanted to die, it's because I wanted the pain to stop, and that seemed to be the only feasible way I could get that to happen. Alcohol is a depressant, weed is a depressant, and I was depressed, so it actually just made it worse. I woke up in the hospital and I was extremely disappointed that I was still alive. And a lot of people kept coming to the hospital saying, God left me here for a reason. I had no relationship with Jesus or God, or I didn't even believe in God at that time. And I could not truly fathom that God left me here for any purpose other than to suffer the rest of my life. I thought at that time I'd never seen him, heard him, experienced him in any way, shape, or form. And so I went quickly downhill. After that, I found out I could drink alcohol through my feeding tube, and I could smoke through my hole in my tracheostomy, and I became an all-day, everyday blackout drunk. And I woke up in institutions, jail, of strange people's houses. It was very bad there for 6.5, 7 years. And so I wanted to stay in that state of drunkenness, because at least in that state of drunkenness and blackout, I wasn't depressed. I wasn't nothing. I was in a blackout, so at least I didn't feel feelings that I did cause and inflict a lot of harm on a lot of people other than myself. I started going to a church, and I had a seminary student. I asked him to come pray with me at my brother's house, and I don't know what that man said, but all I know is that every tear that should have came out of my eyes up to that point all came out in a waterfall at that moment. And I don't remember saying the sinner's prayer. I don't remember me repeating anything he said. I don't even know what the man said. When he left, all the substances I had a humongous pain pill addiction from all the surgeries I've had. And there are major withdrawal symptoms from those pain pills. And when that man left, I had no withdrawal symptoms, no desire to drink or use pain pills or do anything. No desire to smoke, no desire to alter my mood in any way, shape, or form. And I felt as if God took my dirty, rotten soul out and replaced it with something better. And he did. But because I was going to a church where nobody discussed their problems, there was no vulnerability, and so but I went back to what I knew. I knew how to be miserable, but I didn't know how to be happy. And so I did that for a period of time. Tried getting sober in 2011. I tried to get sober. I'd get a month or two here and I'd relapse. I'd get a month or two here and I'd have a setback. And finally, the last day I got high was December 6, 2013. I'm in an AA meeting and I'm high as a kite. And all of a sudden, this overwhelming shame and guilt and conviction come over me because I was kind of living a lie. I was telling people I was sober, but I wasn't. And I took my son to the meeting, and I cried during the meeting. And I cried all the way home, and I had my 8-year-old son with me. I'm sitting on the couch, and I catch myself while I'm crying. I'm intently Googling how to commit suicide with carbon monoxide poisoning with my vehicle. And my son is sitting right beside me, and he looks up to me and he says, "Dad, what are you doing?" And he didn't know what I was doing. I knew what I was doing. And it totally wrecked me in that moment. I reached a complete and utter state of hopelessness. And I realized that I cannot do this on my own. It's impossible for me to do this on my own. And I looked up at that raggedy, dusty ceiling fan, and I said, "God, if you take this away from me one more time, I'll live for you." And he took it away again. But it wasn't dramatic like the time before. I had to pick up the shovel and put in some work. I had to go to meetings. I had to go to recovery. I had to do inventory. I had to get connected with a church and talk to people that knew what it was like to be me. So before, God, just me and God wasn't enough. And then I went to AA, and then it was just me and other people weren't enough. I had to have God and recovery, God and community, God and safe, supportive people to fully get the benefits of what God wanted me to have, which is hope and healing. That's what I need, hope and healing. And so from that point forward, I started doing the work. I started working the program. I met my beautiful girlfriend, Tisha, in recovery. We got married. We started coming to Temple. And so we came to Temple for an 11 o'clock service and had no idea when we got here they were doing baptisms. And I remember the sweater I had on. It was chilly. And I had this sweater on, and I watched these baptisms, and I just wept silently, just tears flowing. And I remember looking down, and my sweater was soaking wet. And I knew at that moment that this was our home. This was where we was gonna seek God and seek relationship and seek community and seek recovery all under one roof. And that has been crucial to not just staying sober, but being happy and joyous and free in the midst of not using substances. That's all I've ever wanted was, you can put the substances down, but I want to be joyous and free and content not having substances. And so God's got to fill that hole. Community has to fill that hole. Safe and supported people have to fill that hole. This church has a culture of vulnerability, and vulnerability is contagious. And so I started coming here, and I heard people sharing things that I never heard people share out loud before. If I walk in a recovery meeting or in Temple, I no longer feel like I have to hide how I feel. As a matter of fact, I want it to be on my face. So if I don't want to share it, somebody's going to call me out and say, "Casey, you don't look. Casey, how are you doing?" "I'm fine." They're like, no. How are you really doing?" And I've gotten to a point to where I no longer want to hide how I feel because I know how detrimental that is. Even though it feels uncomfortable, we have to do things that are uncomfortable in order for us to become comfortable. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. It's just like anything else in life. Be open and vulnerable and transparent with your feelings because there's people that want to help. There are people that want to share their experiences with you. And not only is it a blessing to you to hear their experiences, it blesses them to share their experiences with you. And in return, it's a blessing for all those involved. Because I do not want anyone to make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. That is the worst thing anyone can do, whether you're in a fit of anger, sadness, anything like that. Do not make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. And this church does a wonderful job of expressing itself and being a light for others in the community and in here. community is key to recovery.